Hey there, friends, settle in, because this is one of those stories that stays with you long after the lights go out. The kind you think about years later when life throws another curve and you remember what really matters. Pull up a chair, maybe pour yourself something warm. Let me take you back to Christmas Eve, the night everything shattered, and the quiet, slow revenge that followed, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, just rises up and leaves the people who tried to break you staring at the ruins of their own choices. It started in the Ashford Mansion, that big, cold place on the hill where money had lived for generations, but warmth never quite took root. The Christmas tree was massive, 12 feet of perfect evergreen draped in gold and crystal, lights twinkling like they were trying to pretend everything was fine. The dinner had been the usual affair: silver platters, imported wine, guests in tuxedos and gowns laughing at jokes that weren't funny. My mother-in-law, Evelyn Ashford, had been on edge all night, her smile too tight, her eyes darting to me every time someone asked what I did for a living. That I was 34 then. Ran a small furniture restoration shop in Columbus. Nothing flashy, just old pieces people thought were beyond saving. I'd bring them back: cracked tables, scarred chairs, dressers with water stains and cigarette burns. I loved the work. Loved the smell of sawdust and linseed oil, the quiet satisfaction of seeing something broken become beautiful again. Lauren used to say she loved that about me. Used to come by the shop with lunch, sit on a stool watching me work, tell me my hands were the sexiest thing she'd ever seen. That was a long time ago. By the time dessert was cleared, the digs had turned sharp. Evelyn leaned across the table, her voice sweet poison. "So Ethan, still playing with old junk in that little shed of yours?" Laughter rippled around the table. Victor, her husband, smirked into his scotch. Lauren laughed too, soft, nervous, eyes on her plate. I let it slide. I always did. But later, after the guests drifted to the living room for brandy, I stepped into the hallway for air. That's when I heard them in the study. The door was cracked just enough. Lauren's voice, tired. "I can't keep doing this, Mom. 8 years. He comes home smelling like wood stain, and we have nothing to show for it. The shop barely breaks even. Harper deserves better." Evelyn's reply was quick, certain. "I told you from the beginning. He's beneath us. A man who fixes other people's trash? You deserve Europe, private schools, a husband who understands what status means. Children are resilient. Harper will adjust." I waited for Lauren to defend me, to say something about love, about the life we'd built, about the nights I worked late so she could study for the bar exam. Instead, she sighed. "I've been thinking about divorce. But Harper, she adores him." That was the moment I knew it was over. I pushed the door open. Lauren's face went white. Evelyn turned. No shame at all. "Eavesdropping? Classy. How long?" I asked, voice steady. Evelyn stepped forward. "Long enough. This marriage was a mistake from the start. Get out before I have security escort you." I looked at Lauren. "Anything to say?" She looked at the floor. "Maybe you should go, Ethan. Just for tonight." We walked back to the foyer. Evelyn's voice rose, sharp and final. "You're nothing, Ethan. A broke loser playing house with my daughter while she supported you. Get out of my house. You'll never see my granddaughter again." Harper appeared then. My little girl in her red holiday dress, eyes huge. She'd heard everything, seen everything, and she made a choice that still brings tears to my eyes when I think about it. She didn't run to her mother. She didn't cling to her grandmother's skirts. She ran to me, her small hands wrapped around mine. She looked up, tears shining but not falling, and whispered, "I want to go with you, Daddy." My chest cracked open, not from the insults, not from Lauren's silence, from the fact that my 6-year-old daughter understood loyalty better than every adult in that glittering, heartless room. I knelt. "Okay, sweetheart, let's go." I grabbed our coats. Evelyn kept screaming, threats of lawyers, custody battles, how I'd be ruined. Victor watched from the doorway, silent as always, swirling his drink like it was mildly entertaining television. Lauren tried one last time, voice small. "Ethan, leave her here. It's cold. We'll talk tomorrow." I turned. "Leave her with people who just told her father he's worthless? So she can learn that's what love looks like?" "No, you're being dramatic. You're being a coward." I opened the front door. Cold rushed in like a clean breath. Snow fell soft and steady. Harper's hand stayed locked in mine as we walked the long driveway, past the stone lions, the fountain, the row of luxury cars that cost more than I'd ever make in a lifetime. I buckled her in the back of the old pickup, cranked the heat as high as it would go, pulled away. The mansion shrank in the rearview mirror until it was nothing but a distant glow that I drove without a destination. No parents left to call. Mine had been gone since I was a boy. No close friends I could show up on at midnight Christmas Eve with a traumatized child and a shattered marriage. We ended up in an empty grocery store parking lot 4 miles away. Store closed for the holiday. Lot deserted. I parked under a streetlight, reclined the seat, and stared at the falling snow. Harper climbed over the console, curled against my chest. I wrapped both arms around her, held her like she was the only real thing left in the world. Daddy, why was Grandma so mean? Sometimes people say hurtful things when they're angry, baby. But you didn't do anything wrong. No, sweetheart, I didn't. Then why are we sleeping in the truck? Because sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting back. It's walking away from people who can't see how much you're worth. She was quiet a long time. Then, in the smallest voice, I'm glad I chose you. Tears burned behind my eyes. I kissed the top of her head. Me too, Harper. Me too. She fell asleep against me, breathing soft and steady. I stayed awake, watching snowflakes melt on the windshield, feeling the cold sneak in no matter how high I ran the heat that I thought that was the lowest moment of my life that I was wrong. Sunrise came slow. Pale gray light crept across the lot. My neck was locked, back screaming from sleeping upright. Harper still slept against me, small and trusting. Then 3 sharp knocks on the window that a man stood outside. Late 50s, silver hair, charcoal coat over a tailored suit, leather briefcase. Calm eyes that I cracked the window. Cold poured in. Mr. Ethan Hayes. Yeah, Daniel Whitaker. Attorney representing the estate of your grandfather, Rowan Hayes. My stomach dropped through the floor. Rowan, the man who raised me after the crash took my parents. Who taught me in his little shop how to strip wood without damaging the grain. How to mix stains to match any color. How to see potential in something everyone else had given up on. He left Ohio 14 years ago, said he had unfinished business out west. I begged him to stay. He put his hand on my shoulder. You're ready, Ethan. You don't need me anymore. But I need to do this. He signed the shop over to me and left. Calls got shorter, then emails, then Christmas cards, then silence. I thought he was struggling, too proud to ask for help. I sent money when I could. He always sent it back. Harper stirred. Who's that, Daddy? He's a friend of great-grandpa Rowan's. We're going to talk inside where it's warm, okay? We crossed to Molly's diner. Warmth hit like mercy. Hot chocolate for Harper. Coffee for us. A short stack of pancakes appeared without us asking. Whitaker opened his briefcase, spread documents across the table. Your grandfather passed 3 days ago. Sedona. Pancreatic cancer. He refused aggressive treatment. Wanted to go on his own terms. Grief slammed into me. I hadn't known he was sick. Hadn't spoken to him in years. Regret burned hot. But there's more, Whitaker said softly. When Rowan left Ohio, he told you he had unfinished business. That was true, but not the whole story. He slid photographs across. Elegant workshops with high ceilings, skylights, rows of gleaming antiques. Signs read Hayes Heritage Restorations. Shortly after arriving in Arizona, a major collector found him. One impossible restoration, an 18th century sideboard damaged in a fire. Rowan brought it back in 7 months. The collector was so impressed he introduced Rowan to his entire circle. Museum curators, auction house executives, private collectors with more money than they knew what to do with. I stared at the photos. Nothing like the small shop where I'd learned the craft. Within 2 years, Rowan had more work than he could handle alone. He opened his first studio in Scottsdale, then Santa Fe, then Tucson. He didn't just restore. He started acquiring damaged pieces others wrote off, restoring them to perfection, selling at auction. Some pieces went for 6 figures, then 7. The numbers didn't feel real. At the time of his death, Whitaker continued. The company was valued at $24 million for properties across Arizona and New Mexico. Personal collection of restored antiques valued at $4 million. Liquid assets totaling just over $9 million. I couldn't breathe. Harper finished her pancakes, drawing little snowmen in the condensation on the window, humming quietly. Whitaker reached into the folder, pulled out an envelope. Cream-colored. My name in Rowan's familiar handwriting. He wrote this for you. Asked me to give it only after you understood the scope of what he'd built. I took it with trembling hands. Ethan, if you're reading this, I'm gone and I'm sorry I stayed away these last years. God knows I wanted to be there every day. Wanted to call you. Wanted to meet that little girl. Wanted to sit on the porch with you like we used to when you were small, but I had to know. I had to know you'd become the man I raised without the shadow of money changing who stayed and who left. I had to know you were strong enough to stand when the world tried to push you down, and you were Dot I watched from a distance. Hired people to check on you, to send reports. I knew about Lauren. I knew how her family treated you. I knew about the Christmas Eves where they made you feel small. I knew you stayed because you loved your daughter more than your own pride. That's how I knew I did my job right. Everything I built is yours now. Not because you need the money, though it'll help, but because you earned it the hard way, by being decent when no one was watching, by choosing loyalty over comfort, by walking out of that mansion with your head high and your little girl's hand in yours. Take care of Harper. Teach her what I taught you. A man's worth isn't measured by his bank account. It's measured by the lives he touches, the promises he keeps, the quiet choices no one sees. That I love you, son. Always did. Dot. Grandpa I broke right there in the booth. Shoulders shaking, tears streaming. Harper climbed across the seat, wrapped her arms around my neck. Don't cry, Daddy. It's okay. But it wasn't just sadness. It was everything at once. Grief for lost years, relief that he'd never abandoned me, gratitude that he'd been watching, love that he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. The revenge had already started. They just didn't know it yet. The next days were a blur of paperwork, hotel rooms, reality settling in like new would understand. I kept quiet. No announcements. No gloating. But word travels in small circles. Lauren called 4 days later. Ethan, Christmas Eve it got out of hand. Mom was stressed. The party, the guests. I froze. I'm sorry. I listened to her ramble about working through it, about Harper needing both parents, about fresh starts. Then I told her the truth, about sleeping in the truck, about Harper curled against me asking why Grandma hated me, about the knock on the window at dawn, about Rowan, about the $24 million, about the empire built doing exactly what they mocked me for, fixing old furniture. The line went silent for so long I thought she'd hung up. When she spoke again, her voice had changed completely. Warm, sweet, almost breathless. Ethan, that's wonderful. Oh my God, this changes everything. Come home. We can celebrate together as a family. Mom and Dad, they'll come around once they see what you've become. What I've become. I said quietly. I haven't changed, Lauren. You have. Now that there's money on the table. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. You knew exactly what to do. You chose silence that night. You chose your parents over your daughter and your husband. You've been choosing them for years. The only difference now is that I finally see it clearly. I hung up. 2 days later, the first lawyer's letter arrived. Evelyn and Victor, through their high-end firm, filed for emergency custody. Claimed I was unstable, that sleeping in a vehicle with a child constituted neglect, that my sudden windfall raised questions about my judgment and ability to provide a stable environment. That I showed the papers to Whitaker. He didn't even blink. One phone call later, I had the best family law attorney in the state sitting across from me in a coffee shop. She reviewed the filing, laughed once, quiet, dry, and said, "This won't even make it to a judge's desk." She was right. The hearing lasted 10 minutes. The judge read the filing, looked at the Ashford's lawyer, looked at mine, and dismissed it with a single sentence. No evidence. No pattern. Motion denied. And counsel, next time you bring something this frivolous, bring a better reason. Word spread fast in their social circle. Invitations stopped coming. Whispers started. Throughout their own son-in-law and granddaughter over pride. Lost the girl because they couldn't keep their mouths shut. Victor's business partners grew cautious. Deals slowed. People who once bowed to the Ashford name started looking the other way. Lauren tried again. Showed up at my shop in March, rain-soaked, eyes red. Wearing the coat I bought her our first Christmas together. "I miss you," she said. "Both of you." I paused, sanding a table. One Rowan would have loved. Looked at her, really looked. "Miss the man you mocked? The man your mother called worthless while you stood silent? Or do you miss the millions that came with him?" She cried. "We can fix this. For Harper." "Harper's already fixed," I said. "She's safe. She's loved. She's with someone who'll never make her watch her mother stay quiet while someone tears down her father." She left without another word. I filed for divorce the following week. They fought dirty. More accusations. More filings. All of it fell apart under scrutiny. Primary custody to me. Reasonable visitation for Lauren. I gave her more in the settlement than the law required. Not out of guilt, but out of closure. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone go cleanly. Her visits dwindled after 6 months. Eventually, she moved to San Diego with a man she met at a charity event. She sends Harper birthday cards. Sometimes they arrive on time. More often they don't. The Ashford's world continued to crack. Victor's firm lost major clients after the custody fiasco became gossip. Evelyn's social standing eroded. The big house grew emptier. Holiday dinners became quiet affairs with hired staff instead of family. They tried reaching out once, through a mutual acquaintance. For Harper's sake. I declined politely. Their regret is a living thing now. Every empty chair at the table, every silent phone, every glance at the driveway where a little girl once chose her father over everything else. Years passed. The shop grew, doubled in size, then tripled. Showroom up front with restored pieces that sell for prices I used to think were impossible. Training wing and back, where young people learn the craft Rowan taught me. His old workbench still sits in the corner, scars untouched, a reminder that beauty comes from imperfection. Harper is 10 now. She comes straight here after school, ties on her little apron, sands edges, sorts hardware, carves wobbly leaves and stars that get better every week. She's patient, determined. Just like Rowan, we fly to Arizona quarterly. The teams greet us like family. Harper leads visitors through the Scottsdale and Santa Fe workshops, runs her fingers along pieces Rowan restored, tells them, "Great-grandpa made this beautiful again." We started the Rowan Hayes Scholarship. 15 full rides every year to trade schools and apprenticeships. Kids who remind me of myself at 16, hungry to work with their hands, no money for tuition. Graduates open shops, work for me, credit that old man's legacy. One wrote me a letter. "You gave me purpose when life said no. Thank you for believing in people like me." Lauren's life in California fell apart. The new man left. Debts mounted. She calls sometimes, strained, awkward. Harper answers politely, but the distance grows. "I love you, Mom," she says, "but Daddy's my home." I kept the old truck. Still drives like a tank. Still leaks a little oil. Still has the dent in the fender from the day Harper was born and I backed into a pole rushing to the hospital. I kept the flannel shirts until the elbows wore through. I kept the simple life. Not because I have to, but because it feels honest. Late at night, when the shop is quiet and Harper's asleep, I sit at Rowan's bench. Run my hand over the scars. I think about that parking lot. The cold seeping through the doors. Harper's small hand gripping mine. The knock on the window at dawn. That wasn't rock bottom. That was the pivot. The moment the universe looked down and said, "You chose loyalty over comfort. You chose love over pride. You walked away when staying would have been easier." So here is your proof, not just in dollars. In the girl who runs to you first. In the kids who get a chance because of you. In the pieces that come back to life under your hands. In the silence of the people who tried to break you while you rise. Quiet and unstoppable, they lost a daughter, a granddaughter, a legacy. I gained a life. And every night, I still whisper in the dark, "Thank you, Grandpa." I'll keep making you proud. If this story touched something deep in you, if it reminded you that your worth was never up for debate, that time has a way of revealing everything. Hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to know they were never worthless. Drop a comment below and tell me about the moment you walked away and found something better waiting on the other side. And if you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We tell more stories like this. Stories where the ones who tried to break you end up watching you rise, quiet and complete. Because the darkest night is never the end, it's the door. Thank you for listening. See you in the next one.